Let's talk about mental health. So, I have a lot to say on the topic of mental health, so I imagine this is one of multiple videos. I want to start by saying that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I haven't been on here much because my mental health has been a struggle. Okay, so let's just get to it. I have generalized anxiety disorder, I have depression, I have fibromyalgia, which I mentioned because it is a syndrome that plays into my mental health for sure. And I was diagnosed a year and a half ago, but what I'm learning is I've had anxiety and depression all of my life. For me, it's manifested a lot as perfectionism, as trying to be the perfect daughter and perfect classmate, and going above and beyond and people-pleasing in ways that literally were toxic, as well as finding myself in many work and romantic relationships that ended up being toxic because of it. And it wasn't something that I ever had an awareness of, like there were times when I was super sad as a high schooler where I imagined that this is probably just being a teenager and hormones and that's growing up in a New England blue-collar family. Mental health was not something that I knew much about as a actual health concern, which sounds wild to say now, but it's true. And so living with my anxiety and depression for that long, untreated, undiagnosed, I had an appointment with my therapist yesterday that was really enlightening. We were talking a little bit about my diagnosis and lack thereof growing up. And, one of the things that she asked me, she was like, so when was the last time that you truly felt a happy emotion? Can you pinpoint it in the last, 6 months, like a time period where you were happy? Not just like a fleeting, oh yay, my friends. It was so sad to be like, I can't think of anything. There's always, for me, in my experience of mental illness, there's always an underlying, when is the other shoe gonna drop? When is the bottom gonna drop out? I can't allow myself and give myself permission to feel positive emotions without the next thought being, it's not gonna last, or who the fuck are you to feel these feelings when there are negative things also happening in your life, and you're ignoring them and selfish for ignoring them if you're not feeling them all the time. So as an empath and and I want to hold on real quick, let's talk about the word empath. I feel like that's a word that gets thrown around a lot nowadays. To me, my highly sensitive nature and my empathy feel very tied to my childhood trauma of growing up in a household with two alcoholic parents, one of which deeply needed / still needs treatment. And being a kid exposed to that was very difficult. And so I learned to adapt by being highly sensitive of other people's needs and desires, and how to people please and keep myself the grounded one of the family. There wasn't going to be an issue with me because there are enough issues in the family, so I was going to shrink myself and minimize myself to make sure that I wasn't part of the problem. Not okay, Corinne. Not okay. Okay, so that being said, when I say kicking stuff, sorry. When I say empathy or like highly sensitive person, to me, those are less like I'm in tune with other people around me, which is part of it, and more like also I went through some shit to become like this that's not healthy and not okay. So being that type of person, it's so hard for me to not constantly be checking in with my feelings and emotions now that I've started doing therapy and started doing the work, and I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicine. All of this to say, I am somebody who is what society might call a high-functioning depressive person or a high-functioning anxiety, all of these like words that we've thrown around. Which basically just means that like you can't tell unless I tell you. Like it's not something that's blatantly obvious that that's how I move through the world, but it is how I move through the world. And I'm at a place where like I'm happy to say that and claim that as part of my identity and tell my friends about it and have conversations about mental health. And my partner, you know, and I talk about it constantly about our mental health and like what we need and advocating for ourselves. But I just like, what is new to me and what I feel so excited to share about is how do I word this? The impact that rest has had as a way to dismantle the hustle culture that capitalism has given us. Stay with me. Please stay with me. So a lot of my anxiety and perfectionism is fed by capitalism, of like this hustle culture idea of like, you work hard, you do what you love. If you do what you love, you've never worked a day in your life, and you go and eat, sleep, drink, money and making money and being productive. And how do I like schedule my day so I'm the most productive and, you know, exceed, go to the next level. Success is what you're striving for. Be promoted, be more. Blah. That's the system we live in, right? Like, undeniably, yes, money will always matter. Money has turned capitalism into, like, the default, which has been awful for my mental health. Realizing that that's the impetus for a lot of my perfectionism of, like, I need to do more, I need to be promoted, I need to make the next steps, like, I need to... all of these needs, right, that my perfectionism has put into me. And I want to talk about perfectionism in another video, so I'm going to table her. You'll meet her eventually. Her name is Patrice. But what I'm trying to say is the way that I am starting to experiment with dismantling my anxiety and depression is with this lovely thing that I've stumbled into called radical rest. What the hell is radical rest, Corinne? When you are working in a capitalist society that tells you to do more, be more, get more, one of the silent ways that you can revolt against that system is by not. And so obviously, like, you can't completely get out of the system. I'm not saying, like, just don't sign in for work today. Like, that doesn't work for any of us. Maybe it works for, like, super privileged people, but I'm not one of those people, and I imagine if you're watching this, you're not either. What I am saying, though, is how can I schedule, like, specific moments of rest in my workday where, like, I think it is appropriate and okay to be like, I can't jump from this meeting to this meeting and this meeting and this meeting and this meeting. I'm gonna schedule myself like 10-minute intervals between of just like brain reset time. I'm gonna do a little journaling, or I'm gonna, you know, just read emails, not reply to them, or I'm going to, you know, like completely unplug and play 10 minutes of Animal Crossing. Like, having little breaks that you're putting in scattered throughout your day not only allows your perfectionism brain to like slow its roll, it's not gonna stop right away, but it'll start slowing down and being like, oh, cool, I get to prioritize myself for 10 minutes? Love that. But it also is kind of like a sneaky little revolt that you're having against the capitalist system. It's great. So this is one example of radical rest. Another way radical rest shows up for me is if I, know that my workday is supposed to start at 10 a.m., I am going to make sure that I am like fully resting and taking care of myself at both the beginning and end of my workday. And I kind of bookend some rest where it's like, Justin, my partner, I love you. I'm gonna go like decompress and I can't talk to you right away. Like I need time to just like listen to a podcast or take a shower or like just have some appropriate time to like recenter with myself and like process my feelings rather than just jumping from one high emotion to another or anyway, so these are some ways that radical rest has shown up for me. And I think I just want to like hammer home that like our capitalistic society, especially in the United States, has taught us that like achieving and producing is your MO as an adult. That is so ableist. That is so racist. That is so just like, there's so many things wrong with it. And while we can't escape the system always, it's a very privileged thing to be like, fuck it, I'm not gonna work. While we can't escape the system that way, it feels like an act of revolution to stop prioritizing it and to instead have the priorities of your day be finding ways back into yourself and centering with yourself, whatever that looks like. And so as we approach the end of Mental Health Awareness Month, I'd like to challenge you to find ways to sprinkle some radical rest into your next week of the month. Just try for a week. It's gonna feel really uncomfortable. You're gonna feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to sometimes, and you're gonna feel like you're not doing it right. That's your perfectionism and your anxiety and capitalism inside of you trying to get you to conform to everything it wants you to be. So tell it to just shh. It doesn't get to drive. Just try. And I'm curious if you have questions or ideas or ways that this has shown up for you in your life. If you wanted to leave them in the comments below, I'd love to read them and reply to them and talk more about this secret revolution that I like being a part of. And I imagine you might find some joy in too. I know this is a different kind of video than what I've been doing, but the editing, it's just something I didn't want to do today, so I'm doing my own thing. I'm just rambling and you get to hear all of the rambles, all of it.